Verbs are extremely important in sentence construction. In fact, every sentence requires a verb. A verb may change its form. A verb can be transitive or intransitive. A verb can be regular or irregular verb. A verb can be action verb or state verb, and much more. In today's lesson, we're going to cover the various types of verbs in English grammar. Types of verbs: action verb, stative verb, transitive verb, intransitive verb, helping verb, modal verbs, regular verbs, irregular verbs, phrasal verbs. Action verbs. Action verbs, as their name says, are used to refer to actions. Action verbs are those that involve the movement of one's body in one way or the other. Some examples of verbs referring to action are jump, hit, sing, or mental actions that we use our brain to perform, such as think, consider, or memorize. Most verbs in English language are action verbs. Examples: walk, run, talk, sit, read, write, jog, cough, sleep. Stative verbs. Unlike action verbs, stative verbs refer to conditions, situations, or state of being. All forms of to be verbs belong to this category. Some examples of verbs referring to a state or condition are is, am, are, was, were, have, has, will be, appear, seem, become, been, being. It is important to know that some verbs can be used as either action or stative verbs, depending on their meaning in the sentence. We are less likely to use stative verbs in the continuous verb tenses. Transitive verbs. The word transit means the process of being moved or carried from one place to another. So, a verb that needs an object to complete itself is called transitive verb. It is called transitive because it passes its action from subject to object. Let's consider some examples. The baby licks his fingers. In this sentence, the subject, the baby, licks is the verb, and his finger is the object. So, if we don't mention the object, the sentence is incomplete. The baby licks. So the meaning of this sentence is not clear, that what the baby licks. So licks is a transitive verb as it requires an object. I love my mother. In the same manner, if I use the subject and the verb and no object, so this sentence will be incomplete. I love what? I need to mention the object. I love my mother. Usually, no preposition is used after transitive verb. Let's consider another example. The doctor checked the patient. In this sentence, the action denoted by the verb checked passes from the doer, the doctor, to some object, the patient. Therefore, the verb checked is a transitive verb. So, transitive verbs are verbs that require an object in the sentence. Intransitive verb. In means without. So, intransitive verbs means a verb that doesn't need an object to complete itself is called intransitive verb. It does not pass its action from subject to the object. For example, the baby cries. Now, the baby is the subject, cries is the verb, and we could see that there is no object in this sentence. Even then, this sentence is complete. So, this means that cries is a verb, an intransitive verb. It doesn't require an object. The patient died. The patient is subject and died is a verb. So here there is no object, right? So even then the sentence is complete. Usually preposition is used after intransitive verb. Let's consider another example. We laughed at his joke. Modal verbs. Modal verbs are a group of verbs that behave differently than other verbs and have multiple usage. They denote the possibility, probability, capability, or necessity of something happening. Modal verbs, unlike other auxiliary verbs, cannot be used as a main verb in a sentence. Examples of modal verbs are can, could, will, would, may, might, should, must, ought to. Phrasal verbs. Phrasal verbs include phrases that are formed by combining two or more parts of speech that perform the same function as a verb in a sentence. In most cases, a phrasal verb results from a combination of a verb and a preposition. Some examples of phrasal verbs are go down. Go down means decrease. Lay off. Lay off means to fire. Log in. Log in means to get into something. Get off means getting aside. Run out. That means failing to do something. So likely go all out, think through, fed up, taken back, act on, back away, back up, look up, mix up, opt out, pop in. These are example of phrasal verbs, as we could see that there is a verb plus a phrase. So this phrase in most cases remains a verb and a preposition. Moving further, regular verbs. A verb is considered a regular verb if its past tense forms and past participle ends in it, or the verb is a T-variant verb. For example, the verb look is a regular verb because both its past tense form and past participle is looked. List of regular verbs. So here is a table where the first form, the second form, and the third form is given. So a regular verb has the past form, that means that the second form, and the past participle, that means that the third form either ends at ed, d, or t. Example, play, played and played, watch, watched and watched, learn, learned and learned, lend, lent and lent. So these are regular verbs. Now let's look at irregular verb. An irregular verb is a verb whose past tense and past participle form doesn't end in it, d, and doesn't use the t iron. Often the spell of these verbs changes dramatically or may not even change at all. Now, list of some irregular verbs are eat, ate, eaten, fly, flew, flown, see, saw, seen. Now, what we see in this table is that the verbs have got their forms that varies. The first, the second, and third form changes. So this makes it an irregular verb. Helping verbs. Helping verbs are also called auxiliary verbs. A helping verb combines with the main verb in order to accomplish different goals. These include changing the tense of a verb or altering the mood of a sentence. List of words used as helping verbs: be, have, do, can, will. Alright, so that's all for today's lesson.